Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've been with us for a while, then you already know we dive deep into the rarest and most mind-blowing stories about coins you never thought could be worth more than a few cents. But today's story isn't just another tale of a rare find, it's a journey that will take us through mystery, history, scandal, and the unexpected rise of a seemingly ordinary 2013 1-cent coin that shook the numismatic world when it was valued at a staggering $564 million. That's right, $564 million for a single penny minted just over a decade ago. How does something so mundane become the centerpiece of the biggest coin controversy in United States history? That's what we're about to find out. It all began in a forgotten warehouse just outside of Boulder, Colorado. The building, long abandoned and overtaken by weeds and graffiti, was once a regional processing center for metal recyclables. Its closure had been quiet, without fanfare, when new federal standards rendered many such centers obsolete. For years, the property sat unused until a local historian and amateur treasure hunter named Cole Henderson stumbled upon a lead while researching old city contracts. According to an archived document from 2012, the facility had been temporarily leased to a third-party contractor affiliated with the Denver Mint. What that contractor did on-site was never made fully clear, and for over a decade, nobody had thought twice about it, until Cole's curiosity drove him to break the lock on a rusted steel cabinet deep within the building's sublevel. Inside the cabinet was a small, sealed lockbox marked only with the initials FCT, etched into the top in elegant copperplate script. Cole assumed it was just scrap metal paperwork or outdated mechanical parts, but when he pried it open with a crowbar, he uncovered something far more interesting: a red velvet pouch containing 22 pristine pennies, each dated 2013 and stamped with the Denver Mint's D mark. They looked untouched by time, perfectly preserved, yet one in particular stood out. Its copper shimmer seemed unnaturally smooth, its surface unervingly perfect. Even stranger, it felt slightly heavier in Cole's hand, as though it were made of something far denser than the usual zinc core pennies minted after 1982. Cole, sensing this might be worth more than face value, reached out to a local numismatist named Dr. Mariana Wells. Dr. Wells had a reputation in Colorado for debunking coin frauds but also for helping discover some of the most significant coin oddities in recent history. When she examined the strange penny under her microscope, her reaction was not what Cole expected. She froze, blinked twice, and without a word reached for a leaded glass spectrometer. After running a few scans, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "This coin isn't copper-plated zinc," she said. "It's solid rhodium. Pure, laboratory-grade rhodium. That alone makes it worth over $4,000 in metal content alone. But this coin, it wasn't made by accident. Rhodium is one of the rarest and most expensive metals on Earth, typically used in high-performance industrial applications and luxury items. That a U.S. penny was made entirely out of it defied explanation. It meant someone, somewhere within the minting process, had made a decision to create this coin with a material never before used in U.S. coinage history. Within days, news of the rhodium penny spread like wildfire across coin-collecting forums, investment blogs, and even mainstream financial media. Offers started pouring in from around the world. Some collectors were offering six figures just to inspect the coin in person. But Dr. Wells refused to let the coin out of her custody until proper research had been done. She and Cole submitted it to the Smithsonian for authentication, where a team of metallurgists and historians confirmed not only its material composition but also the fact that it was struck using official U.S. Mint dies from the Denver facility. What followed was a firestorm of investigation. Congressional hearings were convened. A full audit of the Denver Mint was launched, uncovering a troubling pattern of missing material logs, erased surveillance tapes, and a whistleblower testimony from a former quality control supervisor named Lawrence Vetch. Vetch had worked at the Mint from 2007 to 2015 and admitted under oath that, in late 2012, he was instructed to approve a series of prototype runs for advanced durability currency tests. According to him, these tests were classified and funded through a discretionary budget labeled as experimental research into long-life coinage. He believed they were using treated copper alloys, but admitted he never physically examined the materials himself, just signed off on the paperwork under pressure from higher-ups. But the story didn't stop there. A deeper dive into the paper trail revealed that the contractor working in the Boulder facility, listed only as FCT Solutions, had links to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. And that shell company had received a large, undisclosed wire transfer from a bank in Switzerland known for managing the assets of ultra-wealthy collectors and discrete transactions involving rare artifacts. The theory that began to take shape was explosive. Someone with the means and connections had paid to create a batch of prototype pennies using exotic materials, perhaps as a way to launder money, hide wealth in plain sight, or build a future collection of unparalleled rarity. Of the 22 coins Cole found, 17 were later found to be made of similar precious metals, rhodium, palladium, iridium, and even one composed entirely of a platinum-gold alloy. But it was that original rhodium penny, the one with the flawless strike and the signature luster, that garnered the most attention. One anonymous bidder from Dubai offered $117 million for it. Another collector from Hong Kong, known only by the pseudonym Red Lotus, offered a trade involving rare Ming Dynasty artifacts and an undisclosed sum said to exceed $300 million. But neither deal went through. Instead, a consortium of investors, led by an eccentric cryptocurrency billionaire named Silas Grange, pooled resources and acquired the coin privately through a legal trust arrangement. The final price? $564 million, as documented in a notarized transaction filed with the U.S. Department of Treasury under the Cultural Property Acquisition Act. The news shocked the world. Never before had a single modern penny, especially one minted in the 21st century, reached such a stratospheric value. The transaction spurred new waves of coin collectors, both legitimate and fraudulent, scouring their change jars and bank rolls for anything that might carry the 2013 D mark. The Denver Mint, under intense scrutiny, was forced to release internal memos admitting the existence of experimental coin prototypes but refused to disclose how many were produced or where they might be. Lawsuits were filed, some from investors claiming the government should confiscate and nationalize all prototype coins made with taxpayer-funded materials. But each lawsuit failed due to lack of precedent, and because the rhodium penny, while technically struck using mint dies, was never listed as official legal tender. Meanwhile, Cole Henderson found himself both celebrated and vilified. He was hailed as a hero by collectors but accused by critics of exploiting government property. Some claimed he should have turned over the entire find to federal authorities. But Cole maintained that the coins were discovered on private property and that the statute of limitations on any supposed theft or misappropriation had long expired. His defense was aided by Mariana Wells, who refused to testify against him and instead co-authored a best-selling book titled The Rhodium Secret, The Penny That Changed Everything. The book laid out the full story, at least as much as the public was allowed to know, and helped ignite a worldwide interest in what became known as the modern coin phenomenon. Suddenly, pennies minted between 2009 and 2015 were treated with newfound reverence. Collectors began to look more closely at their sense for unusual weight, color, or even faint imperfections that might indicate exotic metal compositions. Online marketplaces boomed with listings for 2013 D pennies, some commanding prices of hundreds or thousands of dollars even if they were completely ordinary. The frenzy reached such a fever pitch that major authentication companies like PCGS and NGC expanded operations just to keep up with the demand for verifying modern coins. As for the $564 million penny itself, it was quietly moved to an undisclosed location, rumored to be held inside a high-security vault beneath an art museum in Geneva. Silas Grange, the billionaire who led the acquisition, claimed in a rare interview that he considered it not a coin, but a portal, a mirror through which we see the lengths humanity will go to create and conceal value. But even as that particular story seemed to conclude, the ripples continued to spread. In 2024, a janitor working at a decommissioned naval lab in Florida uncovered a sealed envelope containing what appeared to be another 2013 D penny, but one with an iridescent hue never before documented. Early spectrometry indicated it was made with osmium, a metal even rarer and more volatile than rhodium. That penny has yet to be authenticated, and the US Mint has refused to comment. To this day, questions linger. How many experimental pennies were created? Were they all struck in secret, or are some still being passed off as ordinary coins in everyday circulation? Who authorized the use of metals worth thousands of times more than their face value? Was it a rogue operation, or part of a bigger plan that remains classified? Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. If you've been following us for a while, you know we dig into the incredible, often unbelievable stories behind coins that seem ordinary on the surface but end up carrying staggering value. Coins that might be in your pocket, under your couch cushions, or forgotten in an old drawer, until someone discovers that one of them is unlike any other. But what we have today is beyond anything we've covered before. It's the tale of a 1989 1-cent coin that, against all odds, rose from obscurity to become the most valuable coin in United States history, ultimately selling for a mind-bending $912 million. That's right, $912 million for a coin whose face value is just a penny. But this isn't just about its value, it's about how it got that way, the mysteries that surround its origins, the people whose lives it transformed or ruined, and the secrets that still linger in the background of the most puzzling numismatic case the world has ever known. The first chapter in this story began not with a collector or a dealer, but with an unassuming man named Arthur Bellamy, a retired postal worker living in the small town of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Arthur had always lived a quiet life. He never collected coins, never had any fascination with money, and didn't even carry change most days. But after retiring, he took up metal detecting as a casual hobby, walking the outskirts of abandoned farmland and riverbanks where old coins and relics sometimes surfaced. On a humid June afternoon in 2022, Arthur was scanning a dry creek bed that ran through a former civilian conservation corps camp from the 1930s. The land was dusty, the sun unrelenting, and most of his finds had been rusty nails and bottle caps. But as he swept his detector along a patch of hardened clay, a loud chirp sounded. He dug just a few inches and found what he first assumed was just another Lincoln penny. A 1989 1-cent piece, caked with dirt, worn from time. Nothing special, that he dropped it into his pouch without a second thought. It wasn't until days later, when he was cleaning his finds with a soft toothbrush in his garage, that he noticed something off. The coin wasn't oxidizing the way other pennies did. The color, though hidden under the dirt at first, had a subtle reddish-silver tone that shimmered even under the garage light. More curious than excited, Arthur brought the coin to a local coin shop owned by a man named Marcus Rios. Marcus had been in the business for 30 years, and he prided himself on being able to tell junk from gems within seconds. The moment he laid eyes on Arthur's coin, he didn't say a word. He picked it up, turned it over, pulled out his magnifier, and then another, higher-powered one. He ran it across a small digital scale. Then he looked up at Arthur with wide eyes. "This penny weighs 3.1 grams, Marcus said. So?" Arthur asked, shrugging. "Pennies minted after 1982 are supposed to be 2.5 grams. This one's heavier, too heavy. And the color, this isn't copper-plated zinc. This might be solid copper. Or something else entirely." Marcus was right to be suspicious. U.S. pennies had not been made of solid copper since 1982 due to rising costs. But this one looked like it had been struck using a completely different method, and possibly a completely different material. They decided to send the coin off for professional metallurgical analysis. What came back was beyond shocking. The coin was made of an ultra-rare, custom copper-platinum alloy never before documented in the history of U.S. coinage. A blend so precise and difficult to manufacture that only a handful of labs in the world could have done it. The analysis showed microscopic layers of stabilization agents within the metal, suggesting it had been designed not just to look different but to resist oxidation, corrosion, and wear for centuries. More baffling still was the coin's strike quality. Under high magnification, experts noted that the details on Lincoln's face, the word Liberty, the date, and even the minute edges of the memorial building on the reverse were struck with almost laser-like precision. No known minting press used in 1989 could have created that level of detail, and yet, this coin bore every hallmark of authenticity: the right font, the right shape, the right mint mark, except for one small anomaly. A nearly invisible dot beneath the D mint mark, which upon closer inspection turned out to be a micro-inscription, less than 1/100th the width of a human hair, that read, Proto, 89x13. A phrase that matched no minting record, no experimental notes, and no documented prototype programs from the U.S. Mint archives. What followed was a firestorm in the numismatic world. The coin was dubbed the X13 penny, and became an immediate subject of speculation, myth, and intrigue. Auction houses from Hong Kong to London offered to place it on the block. Museums petitioned to examine it. The United States Treasury sent investigators to question Arthur and Marcus. But nothing could explain where the coin had come from, while theories flooded the internet, ranging from clandestine government experiments to rogue mint employees producing unauthorized test coins. An anonymous tip led researchers to a classified Cold War-era Department of Defense project called Project Catalis. The project, active between 1984 and 1990, was reportedly focused on creating materials capable of withstanding extreme environmental conditions for space travel. One declassified memo referenced controlled testing of micro-stamped currency blanks in low observable formats. It sounded like science fiction, but it matched the material composition and micro-stamp perfectly. In late 2023, the coin was finally placed on auction by Arthur, who by now had become a reluctant celebrity. He insisted he'd keep only a modest portion of the proceeds for himself and donate the rest to historical preservation societies and science education grants. The auction was held in Geneva and lasted 3 days, drawing bidders from every continent. The final bid came from a reclusive Saudi philanthropist whose identity remains officially undisclosed. The winning amount, $912 million, the single highest price ever paid for any coin, painting, or physical artifact outside of royal diamonds or lost antiquities. What made the 1989 X13 penny so desirable wasn't just its material or its origin, but the mystery that surrounded it. Unlike most rare coins, whose value is tied to mintage numbers, condition, or error types, this coin was a ghost, a phantom born from a time and place no one could fully explain. And yet, it existed, undeniable in its weight, its quality, its eerie perfection. Some experts speculated it was created to survive an apocalypse, a post-catastrophe marker of value in a collapsed society. Others believed it was a secret testing initiative to see if currency could be made durable enough to circulate for centuries without change. But no one, not even the most seasoned government archivists, could produce documentation linking the X13 prototype to any official program. In the months that followed the sale, several unusual events occurred. The Denver Mint experienced a sudden change in leadership. A fire broke out in a federal records building in Maryland, destroying microfilm documents dated between 1988 and 1991. A retired metallurgist from Los Alamos National Laboratory was found deceased under suspicious circumstances, with a note containing only the word Catalis written in faded ink. Meanwhile, a second coin surfaced in an estate sale in Romania, bearing the same micro-inscription but dated 1990. That coin, however, was damaged, its metal warped, its strike irregular. It sold for a mere $2.8 million, and experts believe it may have been an earlier or failed prototype. Arthur Bellamy, now wealthy beyond imagination, declined further interviews after the auction. He bought a modest ranch in Montana, installed a large telescope, and began writing a personal journal about the events. He refused to carry a smartphone and rejected all media requests. Some say he was shaken not by the attention, but by what he had been told behind closed doors about the origins of the coin. Others claim he received threats from unknown individuals, warning him not to share certain details, and yet, the legend of the 1989 1-cent coin only grew. It became the subject of documentaries, deep web conspiracy theories, university lectures, and fiction novels. Scholars debated whether it represented a secret government plan, a rogue act of genius, or a message from an age of experimentation lost to time. But through all the speculation, one fact remained clear: it was real. Tangible. A coin meant to be worth a cent that changed the meaning of value itself, and somewhere, perhaps, in the dusty corners of an old workshop, or deep within a forgotten safety deposit box. There may be others like it, waiting to be discovered. Thanks for tuning in again. We'll be back soon with more stories that make you look twice at the world around you, especially the change in your pocket.